Hello, dear listener, and welcome to episode 1 of Door to Door Gaming, a mostly intelligent and competitive video game podcast. My name is John Watkins, and I would like to welcome my co-hosts, Cameron Minter.
Hello.
And Daulton Shields.
Greetings.
So, since this is the first episode, I wanted to lay out to our wonderful audience how the show is going to go on a normal basis. Every episode, we will begin with some small talk, then we'll proceed into our main segment, where we will discuss the games that we brought to the table or played for the past month. Then we'll read some emails if we have any, and we'll finish off with selecting the next host and promoting our own content if we have any to be promoted. With that being said, does anybody want to go forth with any news?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go because I was talking to you a little bit about this before we had started, and I have been on this. I've been on like this like pseudo shopping spree where I just like look at things that I want and then really contemplate whether or not I'm going to buy them. And one thing has been just like looking at like portable game consoles and specifically like portable computers. So I've been looking a ton at the new Steam Deck OLED and then also the ROG Ally. And I don't know what it is about them, but because I have a computer that is significantly more powerful than both of these machines, and I spend most of my time at home on a desk,
right,
on my computer,
right.
So I don't know what makes me want to try it because they're a lot more expensive than like a computer with similar specs, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but they just seem cool.
There's something about just being able to take X game, I think, especially if it's something that you grew up with, because a lot of games that you grew up with on PC, you can still play on PC, right? So there's something intuitive in your brain, and I don't know how to explain it, but being able to take that thing that you've been stuck at a desk your whole life and just like, I can play it in the car or I can play it on the couch, even if you're never going to do those things.
Right, yeah. I think it's just like the freedom and the convenience of it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big sell. So like, obviously I'm like almost 10 years older than you. And I grew up when the one game that I was glued to as a kid on PC was Morrowind. I didn't have it on Xbox, but that being aside, I played Morrowind and Oblivion on PC.
Nice.
And which you're set in front of a desk for years playing these games that you love. And the first time I booted up Morrowind in the car, it was mind-boggling to me.
It's crazy that you guys were talking about that because my buddy that I was out drinking with last night was thinking about getting the new Steam Deck OLED, and he was saying that the way that they're pricing them is like competitively, like with every other like version of that, because they are charging the same price for the OLED version that they are for the whatever standard version.
Yeah, and they marked down the previous ones too.
Yeah, and they are trying to like phase out the older model, so like all you have left is the new model, which is fine. But I can't believe that they're selling something that has a longer battery life, a better screen, and they're selling it for the same price. That is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's super cool.
I'm going through a bit of FOMO with that specifically because I have the highest tier one from launch.
Oh yeah, you have the original model, yeah.
I'm constantly contemplating selling it just to get the OLED, even though I know I don't need it. And I don't use it often enough or in circumstances where I'm like more than 20 or 30 feet from a charger that can be plugged into the wall and sat next to me where I would need that extra battery life. The OLED's fine and everything, but the real seller in that department, for me at least, would be the battery life, and it's not something I need. But something in my brain is constantly like wanting me to get rid of this and get the exact same thing with a different screen. And
I do the exact same thing, and I've even like looked at the OLED because I'm curious like how practical it is with it having an OLED display, if the Steam Deck is even, or like if the hardware itself is even capable of pushing a resolution with the performance that an OLED would like that you would want out of an OLED, you know?
It's kind of weird that because they're doing the same thing with the Switch. The newest model is OLED, but it's like if you don't have it docked, like I get that it's a little bit bigger screen, better quality, but like most of the time I have mine docked, so it's like I'm using my TV, which is going to output a much better resolution than
Right, yeah.
the OLED.
Yeah, because I have the Switch OLED, and I mainly just got it because the screen was bigger, because I had played the regular one, and the screen was way too small for me to handheld play. That was the like my major reason. That, and it came with white Joy-Cons, and my entire desk theme is white and black.
Right on.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
That, and other than that, I guess what stuff do you guys have? Like, what's going on? What's happening?
I mean, I don't particularly have anything newsworthy, so to speak. I mean, I did just platinum the game that I'm planning on talking about, so I guess that's newsworthy.
I know what game you're playing. I'm gonna go ahead and ask before the segment starts. How much time how many hours did you put into it to platinum it? And was it difficult to platinum? I don't wanna go into it any more than that, but I am curious.
No, like it wasn't super difficult. I think like on maybe like 6, 7 hours. Like it's a
Alright.
pretty short game.
Is it one of those things where like old school Xbox achievement style stuff or 360 achievement style stuff where, like, on more simpler games, like, just playing through the game will get you 95% of the achievements that you need to, get your 1,000 gamer score from it?
Most of the achievements, well, trophies. Most of the trophies were just getting all the collectibles and then beating that boss of that world.
So, GDQ was last week, or the week before rather,
Hell yeah.
and yeah, big speedrunning thing. For those that are listening that don't know, GDQ is it's the largest, gathering of speedrunners on this side of the planet at least, and it lasts 7 days, and it is 24/7 nonstop in-person speedrunning. They televise it and they stream it to the internet for charity, and they surpassed, $2.5 million
Really?
this year.
Is that their highest so far? Do you know?
I don't think it's their highest, but, I mean, they very regularly top $2 million.
That's still wild.
Full disclosure, since I destroyed my notes earlier, I'm trying to remember who they earned it for. Yeah, I wanted to talk about one specific stream, that I was teasing to you, Dalton, before we started recording. There's
Mhm.
a guy by the name of CZR who any percented, which is a category in speedrunning where all glitches are allowed as long as you get to the programmed ending of the game. He any percented Super Mario 64 in 23 minutes and 6 seconds on a drum set.
Like the DK drum set or like a rock band drum set.
No, no, not even a rock band drum, like his drum set, like a full,
Like a
yeah, like a proper drum set.
Oh,
like an E
okay.
kit, like an electronic kit,
No, it was like he did no,
like a real drum
no,
set.
this alright, so I'll send this to you guys, you can watch it in the background or whatever, but, it's a genuine kit. So, like, he had, like, sensors on it, and so,
Oh yeah,
like,
they have triggers. Yeah.
yeah, so each thing was, assigned to a different cue, on the game controller, right? So, like, his 4 main, and you're gonna have to forgive me, you're the instrument guy when it comes to percussion, I'm not.
Mhm.
The 4 main, like, medium size, like, 12-inch drums that you would normally have sitting in front of you,
Mhm.
each one of those was a cardinal direction on the on the joystick. Um, his hats were one of the hats was jumping, and there was a couple other stuff, and it was wild because every time he wanted to move and keep moving in a direction, he had to roll on that drum, or if he wanted to move diagonal, he'd have to roll on both of those drums.
That's so funny.
That's crazy, the amount of dexterity.
You would have to watch it. Oh my god, it was wild. My jaw was on the floor for it was only he any percented it. He genuinely fairly got 16 of the 30 something stars, I think, that are in Super Mario 64, and everything after that was glitches. Me with my fingertips could not play this game as fluidly as this man was doing it with drumsticks. It was wild.
Was he playing the version that still allowed for the, like, infinite backwards long jump, like, where you
Yeah,
build up speed?
yeah, and
Okay, okay.
it's gonna blow your mind. He managed to do that.
on a drum set. That is crazy.
Yes, it was wild. Oh, it was insane, dude.
Okay, yeah, watch. I'm watching like snippets right now, and this is bizarre to watch.
I've watched a lot of I mean, I've seen, like, blindfolded speedruns and shit like that, but this is the only I know that other drum speedruns exist. This is the first one I've actually watched through in its entirety. It's insane. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, that's really sick. I've always been really into GDQs, just seeing. I never knew that they had like wacky concepts like that actually in their runs, so that's really neat.
Somebody did, if I remember correctly, somebody's dog did a speedrun this year. You know how people will train the dogs to, like, step on the buttons and talk?
There's no way. What?
Yeah. And I'm trying to find it right now. It was it was an obscure indie game.
That is like that is peak speedrunning. Like we're not gonna reach a higher level than if a dog or like a monkey or something, if they somehow train a monkey, since I mean they have more
Yeah.
like malleable hands.
Yeah, that's the future. It's Fido. It's not Fido fetch. It's Fido. Beat that game. It's like-
Fido, play Dark Souls.
To answer the previous question, this year, Games Done Quick had raised over $2.5 million for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. To date, GDQ has raised over $45 million for various charities, primarily Doctors Without Borders and Prevent Cancer. So,
Jeez.
yep,
That's crazy.
yep. So, all right. Anybody have anything else?
No, I think we can get into the meat.
All right. Who wants to go first? It's not me. I'm not doing it. I opened the show today.
Nose goes. I've got my finger on my nose.
I think for the sake of what's about to transpire, I should not be the one that goes first.
Oh shit! I guess I am going first. All right, all right. That's fair. Full disclosure, I spent a lot of time during our playtime admittedly obsessing more than I needed to over getting everything set up for the podcast and stuff like this. So I partially purposefully chose the style of game that I'm going to talk about today because it is very much a once you see it, it's kind of what you get kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, I played Coral Island. It is a Stardew Valley esque, and there's more to the esque than just esque, but it's a Stardew Valley esque farm life sim. I think is the genre that it goes for. It falls into the same category as like My Life at Portia and stuff like that. It was developed by Stairway Games. It was released technically in 2022, but on a early access type thing. It released its version 1.0 this January. It was published by the Humble Bundle, and it came out on PC, PlayStation, um, Xbox. I think there's a Switch port coming in February or March. I played it on Games Pass, and in the when I didn't have access to the Xbox, I played it on the Steam Deck. So that being said, it's very much Stardew Valley. It pulls features from all sorts of different life farm sim games. But if you had to pick two, it would very much be if Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing New Horizons had a baby.
Nice.
Yeah, it's set in it's a very Indo-Pacific game. The setting is it takes place in Imagine Hawaii because I get a lot of Hawaii vibes from this, from the people to the story and stuff like that, and it's very Mother Earth centric. So the story is your regular Stardew story. You are tired with the city life and you want to go do something that's not city life. So you have a relative, of course, who gifted you a farm on this island called Coral Island, and you end up there in the town of Starlet, I believe, and you introduce yourself to the townsfolk and all that fun stuff. You explore town, and then they eventually take you to your farm that's overgrown. You have to slowly chop away at the wood and the grass and clear out your farm. And very heavy on crafting. So you build your base up essentially, and unlock new crafting materials and stuff as you go. But the story of the game is, and I'm going to compare this to Stardew a lot because it is extremely similar. The story of Stardew, as most people that have played games in the past 10 years would know, is that a large corporation wants to take over the town for its own corporation like needs. It's very similar in Stardew, or it's very similar in this game in Coral Island. So essentially, what happens is there was an oil spill around the island by the company Pufferfish, if I remember correctly. And it's brought your town's rating down to an F rating. And the ratings in this game are very Japanese. It goes F, E, D, C, B, A, and then you get an S rank. I was very happy to see that you get an S rank in this game.
Did you get the S rank?
No, I did not. I got to the E rank. So I'm still playing.
Baby
Yeah,
steps.
baby steps. I'm still playing. I'm putting time into it. I was just playing it this morning, actually. But so the cool thing that where Animal Crossing specifically comes into this is the primary way to help with your town and the island's rating is by cleaning up the ocean. You know, oil spill. One of the primary crafting ingredients is the game is trash. So you pick up trash, both from around the island and also from the ocean floor, because there's a diving mechanic in this game. And so you go down into the ocean and you'll be using your scythe and you'll be collecting garbage and stuff like that and cleaning up the ocean. And before you know it, you uncover this capsule. I don't really know what to call it. And it ends up floating in the air and goes over and embeds itself into this structure next to the coral reef. And it explodes, not fireball explosion, but like a more of a mystical explosion. And the oil is like cleaned up and wept away, and another part of the underwater map opens up. So you do that enough, and eventually you get to Atlantis. They didn't name it, but it's essentially an underwater kingdom where merfolk live. That's as far as I got with that. Back on land, you kind of do the same thing, but instead of cleaning up trash, you just help the townsfolk out through festivals and stuff like that. They have planting tree festivals and whatnot. When you do those things, you get merit points that can be spent in like a I really don't want to call it a what's it called? Yeah, and you get elixirs and stuff like that, and you can get all sorts of stuff from it. But the more that you do those kind of activities, the more it increases your town's rank, and the more that you increase your town's rank, visibly, the more the island improves. You also get there's different seasons, just like in Stardew, each with their own aesthetic, different crops and stuff like that are available at different times. It has a mining system, much like Stardew, except instead of one single mine shaft that has 100 levels, for example, there's 4. And each one has 40, and each one of those mine shafts you have to complete before you can unlock the next one. And in the first one is where you get your bronze ore. The second one's where you get your silver, gold, and so on, which brings me back to the ocean. A large crafting resource in this game is kelp, and you have bronze kelp, silver kelp, and gold kelp. And depending on how much of the ocean floor you've unlocked, is where you can harvest that kind of stuff. So it has this very, very heavy resemblance specifically to Stardew Valley. And I think honestly, that's kind of where it fails for me personally, because I love this game. I am obsessed with this game, but I don't have the oomph to sit and play it near as much as my brain wants me to, because I've put so many hours into Stardew Valley that it feels like
Yeah.
this is a beautiful, wonderful, fresh coat of 3D paint on Stardew with a whole new story, a whole new set of villagers to talk to. It has its own identity and it works flawlessly. But I've played the same gameplay loop for so many years.
Right, yeah.
That being said, they do have future updates planned for it. There's a lot of stuff to go into with it. A lot of stuff that they are planning on doing. You can adopt multiple, or you can't adopt multiple pets. Rather, there are multiple pets to choose from to adopt in this game. They have dogs, cats. There's a lizard. There's a couple of rabbits. Um, but they have a lot of stuff planned for this game down the road. And honestly, I think when the itch gets to me, instead of going to something like Stardew, I'm going to start to continue to play this. I want to see this through to the end. It'll probably just take me a while, for sure.
So there is like a definitive end to that game.
So there's you've never played Stardew Valley, correct, Cameron?
No, no. I kind of know, but
There's what, and I'm assuming to this game it's the same. In Stardew specifically, there's what's called a soft ending. So you have a year to do quote unquote everything that you need to do, and uh, after that year, the ghost of your grandfather, who you inherited the farm from, will come visit you in your sleep and will give you a grade, essentially give you a rank on your game that you've played. But you can play as many seasons in the game as you want after that. I'm assuming that it's the same way with this.
So one really funny thing is when you were talking about seasons, I thought you meant like live service game seasons. So I was like, whoa, this Stardew Valley game has a or this Stardew Valley like lookalike has a battle pass. That's interesting. I don't know why that's where my brain went, but that's immediately like the first thing I latched onto.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, no, it's a really fun game. My partner Sarah has been playing it an absolute fuck ton. She's way further in it than I am. Um, and like there's so many funny moments in this damn game. Like I was walking through the town square at one point, and unlike with something, God, I really it's hard. It's really hard not to talk about Stardew with this game. I'm sorry, but it's that's just how it is. With Stardew and a lot of other games in their own respect, NPCs are just programmed to go from X point here to Y point here at X time of day, for example, right? And then you can interrupt them and talk to them maybe in the middle of doing that. But past that, you might have so and so is sitting here doing, fishing on the pier for a couple hours, that kind of stuff, real simple stuff. I walked through the square of the town at one point, and half of the town was out there just doing yoga as a yoga session. And in the
Whoa.
middle of all of them was the Shiba Inu named Taco, who I've fallen in love with. So they had a Doge doing yoga. Like he was like stretching out his back and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Awesome. Yeah.
the
There's all sorts.
downward dog pose.
Yeah. So like there's all sorts of like quirky moments. There's a one point, one of the weirder things I know, I've talked about Merfolk. I've talked about there's teleporting in this game. There's the ocean goddess, there's Gaia essentially that you awaken. And that's how, so giving her gifts is essentially how you repair the community center in Stardew Valley. Um you have offerings, which are different bundles. Like one is themed as like summer crops, one's themed as fall crops, one may be summer harvest or foraging items, stuff like that. And through that, you can unlock teleporting around the map. It's a decent sized map. It's probably twice the size of something like Stardew, or physically running around, maybe probably the same size ish as like my time at Porsche or something like that. But there's at one point where you go to one of the sacred trees and you like say a prayer, if I remember correctly, and out of it spawns what I can only describe as like it's a god, but he's like a tiki torch in shorts, in board shorts.
What?
He speaks like, oh no, human, HOOMUN, human see me, must go, and he'll like fucking jaunt off, and you got to chase him down. Like the game is quirky as shit, and I fucking love it. It's awesome. It's got there's a boutique you can buy. You can play fashion Coral Island if you want. There's different outfits you can fit. One of which I will flat out tell you, it's a giant chicken costume, which is great. Uh,
Let's go.
yeah, It's fun. Yeah. Dalton, I know you've played Stardew Valley. You should definitely at least look into it. You would, because I know you played that with your partner, so
Yeah, yeah.
you get a kick out of it for sure. They do not have co-op, but it being
Lame.
it being a successful Kickstarter, in the next couple of updates, um, they are implementing couch and online co-op.
Oh, cool.
And when I
That's
say
neat.
successful Kickstarter, I mean, if let me find it here. They raised they asked for something like $100,000 and they made like $5 million on it or some crazy shit.
What?
Let me.
Oh my god.
I want to be integral about that. Hold on, Coral Island kick.
If those numbers are accurate, that's insane.
It's a giant jump. It's shocking.
I will say, because you were like comparing this to, now I can't even think of the name; it's escaping me. But the screenshots that I've been like looking up of this game, it reminds me heavily of Harvest Moon. You know that series?
Yeah, yep,
Specifically, A Wonderful Life, I believe was the full title.
right. That was A Wonderful Life. That was still was that GameCube?
Yeah, that was on the GameCube.
Okay, yeah, I know which one you're talking
Whoa. You guys have entered an era I didn't live through.
about. So, my numbers were off, but the jump is exactly what I was. They asked for $70,000, and in 36 hours, they raised 1.6 million.
Yeah, that's like the same. That's so crazy. Imagine being the developers in a situation like that, being like, "Yeah, we're gonna ask for like 5 figures," and then you end up with 7 figures worth of just disposable income to develop this game however the fuck you want.
Oh yeah, yeah. They added things. Now that I'm looking at it, they added well one of with the Kickstarter things. You can have kids. You can start a family. You can have kids. Your kids will
That's
grow
cool.
up. Um,
That's cute.
simple things like as the seasons change, people's outfits will change. Stuff like that. The Merfolk Kingdom. Yeah, it's it's been real fun, especially with, I mean, I've put probably 5 or 600 hours into Stardew Valley, and just the idea of playing something, simple enough to be comfortable, but also having a whole new world to explore and figure out, it's been awesome. So, yeah, that's what I got. That's what I brought to the table today.
That's super sick. And it seems like a cool game, yeah. Because I've played a little bit of, I've played a bit of Stardew, and I've played a decent bit of Animal Crossing. So that's probably a game that I could get into and get behind. So might be something I have to check out.
Hey, you have Games Pass for the time being.
Oh yeah, you said it's on Game Pass, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll have to install it then. Give it a try.
Might download that right now, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Who's next?
Yeah, who wants to? Camera, you want to do it, or do you want to just dive head first into what's about to happen?
I'm actually curious because you've told me a little bit about the story that you've for the game that you're playing, and I kind of want to hear more about that. So I'll let you go
Sure.
next.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, full disclosure, you're not gonna understand the story any better once I like explain what I do understand of it, because I have contorted and phrased the like storyline so like dramatically that it's almost unrecognizable, because I had to put it into normal human words, and I just made it sound like like it was just very dumb. So I chose a at the time when it was debuted in 2016. It was very, or when it was first announced in 2016. I don't remember what games conference it was in, but it seemed like it was the first game that, well, I'll go ahead and just say the actual title of the game. The game that I chose was Death Stranding. And I don't know if it made a big difference as far as what I had gotten into with the beginning of the game, but I was playing the director's cut. So I was on my PS5, developed by Kojima Productions, which is Hideo Kojima's company that they had founded post Konami, because I didn't know this, but apparently they had like a whole beef with Konami with some of the previous titles. I don't know if it was like with Metal Gear or whatever, but I hadn't really played any of his games. So it's his company. Yeah, I know that might ruffle some feathers.
No, it doesn't ruffle some feathers. It's if you like it, I really hope you start playing some more of them because the man is a genius.
Yeah. So it was published by Sony Interactive, and it was originally released. I want to say, I mean, right now we're on PS5 and Series S/X, but it was previously released for 4 and 5 or PS4 and Xbox One. But it was released November 8th, 2019, and it's currently available on PS4, PS5, Mac, and PC. And it also, when I looked it up, it said it was available on iOS. I don't really know what that means. If it's
Oh,
like if
what?
they I don't know if they include like cloud streaming in there somehow, because I know that you can stream games through PlayStation Plus if you have like the app. But I think that's more just through remote play. So you're still like playing from your PlayStation. It's just displayed to your phone via streaming. So I don't really know.
Yeah, it's $20.
Wait, really? It's like just available to purchase?
Yeah, seller 505 games compatibility.
What? Oh, I guess I should side note that I don't know if it was like co-published by 505 Games as well, but it was originally just a PlayStation game until Sony and PlayStation made a push to actually port a lot of their games to PC. Once they got like I don't even like they have like the Spider-Man games on there now, the Horizon franchise, uh God of War's on there.
Funny that you mention it for iOS because I'm looking at the Apple App Store page for it now.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what it is, it looks like. And it actually is a pre-order item. It releases in 3 days as of this recording.
Oh, it's not even out. Well, that's strange. That's crazy timing. But but yeah, it's I mean, so I also put about how long did you say you spent on yours, Cameron?
It was like 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah, so I was roughly around like the 6 hour mark as well, which is gravely below what you would need to complete a game like this. So I'm obviously definitely not going to be covering like everything about the game. I took like a very specific small portion of the beginning and just kind of enjoyed it however I could because there's just a lot of different things and it also like there's a whole separate subsection of lore that I have not gotten into or delved into because it's all really abstract. It's all really strange. The game is super goofy. It confused the shit out of me like 90% of the time. Anytime that you're listening to any of their like dialogue or just like if you're trying to piece together a main plot, it's pretty much mailman on bike restores the world. Like that's like as close to like if I had a single sentence to sum it all up, that's about as good as you're gonna get. So on top of that, I don't know why I chose to do this, but I played it on the hardest difficulty that it offered, which I don't know. I didn't read in the difficulty slider scale like what that specifically altered. I don't know if it means like you take more damage, you get exhausted quicker, you're easier to spot. Like whatever it was, I didn't look into it too far. I immediately thought of it as like, oh, there's probably a trophy to beat everything on the hardest difficulty, so I'm just going to go straight for the hardest difficulty. And on top of that, I I when you're doing like so the game is like designed around routes and like you have to run routes and run packages to routes and they give you separate trails that you can take and each one has its own difficulty scale separate from the overall game's difficulty slider and every single time I was like, "Huh, which one's the hardest?" And I would just go with that one immediately. And it came to bite me in the ass the very first time that I had like come in contact with any enemies. And it took me forever just to get through that first encounter. And it was like the first big like action encounter. So this game, I don't really know like what I can compare it to, I mean, it's a Kojima game, which a lot of people that says a lot if you know his games. Like they're all really cool, but they're also like really fascinating in very unique ways that are hard to explain. But it's generally like your standard single player like action adventure exploration focused game. So I pieced together a very loose and probably incorrect interpretation of the story in what I consider to be the most hilarious clusterfuck of points that I could. So I am just going to barrel through it and I'm going to read the whole thing, and then y'all are just going to be left to pick up the pieces because
All right.
it gets weird.
Fair
All right.
enough. Go for it.
You wake as a man in big milky goop. Reincarnation exists for those referred to as repatriates, a genetic superpower that allows you to detect and combat the shadow people. You live your life as a porter or mailman, which I might add is very fitting for, us.
Very fitting game.
You
Yeah.
were talking about routes. You have to run routes earlier, and I was just getting PTSD, man.
Yeah. But yeah, you live your life as what they refer to as a porter, with the assumed goal of reconnecting various outposts to the Bridges Company. So your character, Sam Bridges, or I think he calls himself Sam Porter Bridges, but being a porter is also like his title. So I don't know if that's actually his name or if he uses it as like a nickname to not be connected to the Bridges Company, because there's later lore that shows, and this isn't much of a spoiler, but essentially your family is connected to this company in some way, and that's kind of what makes you like a main focal character. But they have this goal to just like reconnect the world. It's I guess I should have mentioned it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic adventure like action game. And so your whole goal is working, or not initially, but eventually it becomes you supporting this company via your courier services to connect these various communities and other uh, sects of the world that had been sectioned off for a long time. Because when you run into an apocalypse, generally technology just kind of falls off the face of the planet, and then you kind of just have to like revert back to not the Stone Age, but you have to revert back to like a previous era and then sort of work your way back into a more what was at the time deemed modern prior to the apocalypse. So, also I might add that this character, Sam, that you play, seems to have zero interest in actually helping this company. I haven't really unearthed why as far as the story is concerned, but he just seems like just this grungy, pissed off older dude. He's played by Norman Reedus, who, for those who are listening that do not know, or if you guys didn't know, I'm sure you do though, he played Daryl Dixon in The Walking Dead. And so he's just like this really gruff dude and his acting in it is really great. It's really genius because I think they mocapped him, so a lot of his movements seem very authentic, almost to him as a person.
I remember seeing it and thinking that it's not just Norman Reedus playing a character. It might as well just be Norman Reedus in the game.
Yeah, no, it's straight. It comes off that way.
This was also the game, correct me if I'm wrong, this was also the game that used an egregious amount of Monster energy drink marketing.
Did it? I'm maybe I might have completely overlooked it though.
In the trailers, it seemed like every other scene had a Monster energy drink sitting somewhere.
Really? Huh. I'll have to pay more attention to that as I keep playing it more. But yeah, so he as a character did not really give a shit about like the goal. He thought that the goals of the company were like something underlyingly nefarious, like they had some ill intent. But generally it just seems like it's a bunch of people just trying to like rebuild the world. And you meet the president, or like the former president of the US, that's like super gung ho about rebuilding the world, and they have all of these like officers that have these really obscure weird names. Like there's a guy that's just called, his name's just Deadman, doesn't have any other name. He wears, I think I might be mixing him up with one other character, but he wears just like this black mask that covers his face, but it doesn't seem like it's connected to his face because when you see him talk in the game, in the cutscenes and whatnot, his mask doesn't move, but you see his chin like jutting out from under the mask. It's really goofy, and it's like it was one of the first things I noticed that just made me have like a slight chuckle.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, it
Oh,
was really funny.
John, I had to look it up just because I was a little confused on what you were talking about. So, in Death Stranding, they do have a consumable that is Monster Energy. Now, that being said, that was in the original release. The director's cut does not have that because they would have to pay royalties again. So that is not in
Oh,
the director's cut.
that would make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would explain why I've never seen it, and it's because it straight up isn't even in it. That's interesting.
I just looked it up, and there's a mod to put it back into.
That's so funny.
That's amazing.
Alright, go
But
ahead.
yeah. So as far as the plot, I obviously don't want to get really like too far past what I've already said, just for the main sake of spoilers for anybody who hasn't played the game, because I know the game came out at this point almost like it's like over 4.5 years ago, and so I don't really, but I still like would want to give people that freedom to experience it in the way that I did, because I had never heard. The only thing I heard about this game was that the people that liked it thought it was really cool, and the people that were Kojima fans were like kind of split down the middle, where a lot of people were like, this is this crazy abstract masterpiece, and then other people were like, why do I have to walk around for over 200 hours to complete a video game? It's like the typical argument of a lot of these type of games, like Fallout New Vegas. A lot of people, or most of the Fallout games, they just call it a walking sim. So like there's just like you do a lot of walking. It's just kind of what you do.
Right.
But so I'll hone back into my points here. The general game revolves around a borderline biblical event named appropriately as the Death Stranding, a very complex manipulation of time, the afterlife, and death. While playing, you encounter creatures I will forever refer to as the Shadow People that make regular attempts to detain and eliminate you during your adventures and deliveries. And then, so getting into some of like the deeper breakdowns of Death Stranding as a like an event, a virus, a disease, whatever it is considered. Again, still very confusing. Um, so there is a weather known as timefall, which is just rain. But the idea is that if you aren't wearing proper gear to protect yourself from it, it physically ages your skin, and after like so much exposure, it either like ages you beyond repair, or it just straight up like ages you until you are a skeleton and you just die.
Mm.
So the interesting thing about this game is that they, like I said earlier, they introduced the idea of people that carry a trait that, and those the people that carry this trait are referred to as repatriates. And what they're able to do is essentially revive themselves. Um, I'm not sure if there's like additional stipulations there, like if you die a certain way, if that somehow changes it, if the Death Stranding eliminates you, if you can't revive from that, or if it's only restricted to like normal death, if that makes any sense. Like if it doesn't have anything to do with Death Stranding, if you fall over and snap your neck, you can come back. It's really strange the way that it's been conveyed so far, because there's a lot of like almost dimension hopping. Like it's super goofy, like I said. But and then the last part that is pretty crucial to the beginning of the game is when someone dies during this, their body must be incinerated, otherwise it will explode. And when I say explode, I mean like with the power and devastation of nuclear bombs. Like they show a cutscene of a single body blowing up, and it wiped out an entire base camp of people
Holy shit.
and like left a huge crater. And it's a really captivating scene when you watch the cutscene,
Mhm.
but it is also really jarring to watch what was once a person just turn into like a 10-mile crater. It's super super crazy. And then the last part of this that contributes pretty heavily to the overall gameplay is your repatriate abilities can be amplified. So, or here I'll back up a little bit, because being repatriate means that you have this ability to sense the creatures that you are around. That I don't, the one that I refer to as the shadow people.
Mhm.
You can sense them, but you can't see them. So you'll know when they're there. There's like an audio cue that can help, that'll help you detect them, and they introduce that in like one of the first cutscenes that you watch, because you just see these black, mucky, like mudded hands just stomping towards you, but almost like they're trying to scare you. That way they know where you are. Like it seems like they're mainly triggered by sound, and so if you're not making sound and if you're not moving, they'll kind of just look at you. And they also they like secrete the same time fall that is present in the rain. And the reason that I was able to pick up on that is because the your character Sam carries a picture in his pocket, and he goes in a cave to like seek shelter. And when you accidentally drop the picture, and then the shadow guy steps on the picture, and then you see the picture physically change color only in the spot that he stepped on, which was on a person in the picture. And if you slight spoiler, but you won't understand it unless you play, is the person that he steps on in the picture like has a very significant character arc very soon after that picture. And like you'll just have to, if you're gonna play it, that's gonna be a moment you're gonna want to look out for, because it's a really neat attention to detail that I didn't notice honestly until I was explaining it right now, because then I remembered that cutscene and I was like, oh shoot, that makes so much sense. But these abilities can be amplified by just a small child that you hold in like an incubation womb backpack, and they call them BBs. I assume it's just a play on baby, but they call
Oh,
them
he's a
like,
cute little baby.
yeah, they just call them BBs. And if you're using that in combination with your natural repatriate traits, you're able to see these creatures, and they kind of just look like these cloudy, misty, shadowy, gray silhouettes of people, just almost like scarecrow, like in a scarecrow stance,
Mhm.
with like a weird, wispy snake of just like geometric shape going through the center of their body. And the BB allows you to see that, and then it also allows you to know when they're around, because the BB will start crying, and then there's obviously like a HUD indicator too in the actual game for the UI, where you can see like a distress meter essentially, where it'll show like how scared the baby is, and then it also plays into like stealth mechanics and just like the act of avoiding the enemies. And then there's like a hold breath ability that you have to use as well. But the main game is literally kind of just you walk around, you drive, deliver packages to like various drop off points, and then each time that you deliver, you level up. And then leveling up allows you to spec into skills, or not spec into skills, but it gives you like if you level up a certain portion of your skill tree, then you're able to like carry more stuff, because there's like a whole weight mechanic for, like, you obviously can't carry like 400 pounds worth of gear and then walk around with it. Um, and then it leveling up also unlocks other pieces of gear and like gadgets and things. So like ladders and grappling hooks, and there's like a, oh shoot, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a almost like a stamina, like an adrenaline thing that you can use. And that's kind of how you like traverse terrain. I think eventually later in the game you get introduced to actual weapons that you can use. Um, but that's, I haven't gotten to that point yet. Uh, but the one funny part of this game, as you're doing your traversing and like using your gadgets and moving and making your deliveries, is, and I wanted to touch on this because I think it's funny, but I also think it can be kind of annoying, is the balance mini game that you have to play as you're walking, because you have to distribute the weight a certain way. And if you don't distribute the weight, then it's really hard for you to keep your balance. So on PlayStation, you have to hold a corresponding trigger, whether it's L2 or R2, to like shift your weight back and forth. And it kind of just looks like you're dancing as you're running the whole time. And then if you fail to respond in time, then you have to like immediately press both of the triggers, and they have prompts on the screen. But if you have to press both of the triggers to be able to not fall over, because then if you fall over, you can damage your good. Excuse me. You can damage your goods that you're carrying, and then that obviously can result in like a lower rating on the scale.
So, like in a lot of like older games, like maybe collectathons and stuff like that, you know how like you'd have sections where you had to like walk tight ropes or walk across a super thin beam or something like that.
Hmm.
They'd bring up that balance bar. Is essentially what you're talking about, like that mechanic where you have to keep like the little dot in the center of the balance bar, or otherwise you'll fall off and have to start again. But everywhere you go,
Yeah, so it does occur pretty much everywhere you go once you hit past like a certain limit in your weight threshold. Because if you can carry like 100 pounds, you'll start to stumble like halfway in there. So, or not even halfway. It's like once you hit like 40 or 50 pounds worth of gear, you start to like sway. And it doesn't show like a visual cue in that sense where you can see. It's not like a Tony Hawk like grind rail where
right?
you can
Okay,
like
yeah, yeah,
use
yeah.
your joystick to keep it in the center. It's more so just like you can visually see your character start to tilt to the left, and so then you use the left trigger to counteract that movement, and then vice versa for the right side. And it'll show like button prompts, almost like QuickTime events. It'll show like button prompts, but it won't show like how close you are to staying stable or to falling. But then the easy way to bypass that, and you walk a little bit slower if you do it, is you can just hold the triggers the whole time. So if you're like sprinting and you're just holding the triggers, that if you hold both triggers, then you don't have to play the mini game. And that's what I found myself doing a lot when I was carrying like really heavy tall loads, because otherwise you'd sit there just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, just like pressing each of the triggers. But yeah, it's mainly just you make the deliveries, you try not to fall on your face, and you'll run into zones that have enemies, whether it's the shadow people or these guys called scrappers, because these dudes called scrappers will set. I don't know if they're actually called scrappers, but for the all intents and purposes, that's what they are. They run around, they gather up any materials that they can, and they kill people for their loot, essentially. And they have like these little beacon traps that if you step into them, it shoots a little light into the air, and then it alerts them, almost like a flare, and it alerts them of your position in that moment. And then all you have to do, I've found that they're really easy to avoid so far. All you have to do once you hit the beacon is just leave the beacon, because the guys just walk up to the beacon, and if you're not at the beacon, they will just de-aggro and then walk away.
Just about. Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other item that I was thinking of. There's like a I don't know if it's a knife or like a tranquilizer pen, but you can use those to incapacitate those guys if you come up like the one of the first things I got to do that was like later into the delivery system was loot a scrapper camp, and then I had to tranquilize one of them. I don't know if it kills them or if it just incapacitates them, but either way, that's like part of the mechanics. So it's like there's a lot of like interesting stealth mechanics that are implemented very differently from like previous Kojima titles. So like Metal Gear, especially if you've played like Metal Gear Solid like 5, like if you've played Phantom Pain or anything.
Oh, okay. The open world ones. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If yeah, any of the more open ones, those games are they're like more tactical and more like militarized, whereas this game is kind of just like uh be quiet and don't do anything stupid, and generally you'll be okay. And the only reason that I say that is just because I've played it on a pretty hard difficulty and managed to mostly avoid a lot of the stuff. There was one time that I didn't, and it was when dealing with the shadow guys, and they started pulling these Milky corpses out of the ground to grab at my feet. And so then I started running away, and then when I started running, they got pissed off because they knew exactly where I was because I was making a shit ton of sound. And so they started stomping at the ground behind me, and they lifted up this big, like, gush of oil and dirt and muck and sludge, and they like threw a whale at me. Like I'm not making that up. It
I
was
was
like an
wondering where the
actual.
whales fit in from the trailer. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like if you get caught by the dudes, then they throw a whale at you, and then essentially there's like this big pursuit that happens. And I don't know what happens if you get caught. Like I don't know if you just die because I got into that scenario, but then you can after that you can get out of it. Like you don't just like immediately get killed or like have to reset or anything. I managed to somehow avoid it. I don't really know how, if I'm being honest. I just ran away until I was out of their zone, and then once I was out of their zone, I just stayed quiet again. And oh, they also have like a hold breath mechanic as well too that ties into your stamina meter. So you have to hold your breath because they can hear that too. Like that's all that is all they need to be able to get you. And it's kind of comical too because the gameplay is just like when you're holding your breath in they first show it in like a cutscene and the guy just puts his hand over his face, like over his mouth, and that's like that's it. I don't like he could easily just be breathing through his nose and you'd never know.
As opposed to just closing your lips.
Yeah, like yeah, it has the seemingly it has the same effect, but I'm assuming that when you do that, they are implying that you're not breathing out of your nose
It's
either.
more of a visual, yeah, more of a
Yeah,
visual
yeah.
thing.
It's more of
And
like a suspense visual. Yeah,
it's a Japanese developer anyway, especially Kojima. Japanese are a lot more by nature they're a lot more what's the word? Emoty? They
emotive. Yeah,
express, yeah, they're a lot more emotive. They express a lot more than Western cultures. So
yeah. I didn't think about it like that, but that makes sense. But
that might just be a
yeah,
design thing or like a cultural thing.
yeah, it could be. But yeah, that's my that's my game. That's do with what just came out of my face with as you will.
I've never played it and I've always wanted to. And
It's a trip. I really, like I said, I've only played about 6 hours or so. It's really neat so far. I honestly thought I wasn't gonna like it because anything that I had seen about it is it seemed and don't get me wrong, gameplay wise, it can be very dry. It can be really dull and it can drag on. And I'm sure if I keep going or as I keep going with it, it'll probably get more boring as you get through. But at that point, I would hope that I'm at least invested in the story because that's the part that mainly intrigued me in the first place. Is it just seems really abstract and really interesting in a way that I want to explore.
it's really easy to see the kind of trailer that they put out and immediately feel like you have to have you have to have answers for it. Like
Yeah,
I don't know what any of that means, but something's compelling me to yeah.
yeah, it's very captivating in that regard. It grabs your attention really easily and tends to maintain it pretty well, at least in my experience. But yeah,
Oh yeah. You've convinced me. I'm probably going to look into it.
yeah, I would recommend it if you I mean you can sweep it up on PC. It's on Steam. Um, if not if you find it like on sale or something, I know every once in a while it's been on sale on Steam. But if not, it's on. I've been playing it through just the PlayStation Plus premium subscription because I bought like the year subscription, similar to like how you can buy like a year worth of Game Pass or whatnot. But
Right. You said it came out in 2016 or it was revealed in
it
2016?
was revealed in trailers. Like the trailer reveal it was 2016, but it didn't release until 2019.
Okay. All right. Right on. Hell yeah.
But yeah. All right. Last but not least.
Well, I was actually gonna make a comment. So like I love collector's editions of games. They usually come with something that's uh pretty important, like in the game, so to speak. And for Death Stranding, there was actually a replica BB that you
Oh
could get,
yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
which which is so weird to me. But I also found it funny that there was a post on Reddit that I just looked at. They're like, "Well, how tall is it?" And somebody took a measurement of it using monster cans because why not? It's so yeah, it is 2 monster cans tall.
That's
Just so
awesome.
you're aware.
If you're interested in picking it up, a very quick look on eBay has it going for around $200.
They still sell new versions of it too.
I mean,
Oh,
I'd
they
have to play
do?
the yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, one thing I totally forgot to mention, but I just saw this picture. It also there's like these dudes that wear gold. That's all you get. I don't know. I don't know what they are. They just wear gold suits, and they seem like they are in some way like the enemy, but that's as deep as that goes in my brain right now. Yeah. The collector's edition, the PS4 one, is $350 on uh on Amazon. I don't know what. Oh my god, that's used. Used. They have a used like new for 240.
222.14 used, very good on eBay. Ooh, it comes in a Pelican case. Got to keep your BB safe.
Yeah, that's probably one of the that's like one of the odder collector's editions I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty goofy. It also says it's a 1-to-1 scale, so that's really funny. Um, but this it's also worth mentioning with this game that it was like very well critically acclaimed. Like it PlayStation or no, sorry, Gaming Nexus gave it a 9.5, PlayStation Lifestyle gave it a 9.5, it had 5 stars. Like it's got like some pretty high critical ratings. And I mean that's worth mentioning just because the critical ratings were pretty high and the public ratings were relatively mixed, but they all seemed like overall positive. Like I said, there were some people that were like, why is this walking simulator a 9.5? And then there are other people being like, this is the most trippy, cool experience I've ever had.
I know I'm currently hung up on. I just realized that Death Stranding and Callisto Protocol use almost the exact font, the same font.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Yeah. Yeah, it's the bridge. Is that Bridges Energy? Is that what that says on that can?
Yeah, they said they changed it to store brand, like in-game store brand energy drink.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of it was Bridges Energy. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right, Cam.
All right. So, a little bit of information prior to why I'm playing this game. I recently got a PS5. My buddy was wanting the
Let's go.
Spider. Well, yeah, he was wanting the Spider-Man version of the PS5, so he sold me his old one. But I had never really been into PlayStation games. There's like a whole list of games that I would like to play. Never got the chance to up until this point. And with the PS Plus subscription, I've been able to like actually play quite a few of these games, like Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, so on.
Yeah, like
Um,
the classics. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I've enjoyed all of them that I've played so far. But today specifically, I'm talking about Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. Um,
I did not realize
and
that
I've
was
been
the full
playing it.
title. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It's got a
Yeah,
subtitle and
well,
everything. I think all of them have
yeah,
subtitles.
yep, they all have subtitles. But I've been playing it with the out of the collection edition, which it's like I believe it was like an HD graphics upgrade, and it has like the first 3 games in it, like the trilogy. Um, it was the original was released by Sucker Punch back in 2002. Um, it's a game. It's a platformer with like stealth elements, which you can kind of work around those if need be. It was back on the yeah, it was back on the PlayStation 2. So again, I'd never had a PlayStation 2, so I never got to play the original.
Right.
Um, but the the main story of at least this game, I don't know about the other ones. I don't know if they branch off or if they're all their own secluded story. But in Thievius Raccoonus, you're playing as Sly Cooper, and your family had been murdered by a bunch of these what's the word I'm looking for? They wanted to be master thieves. So they murdered the master thieves, which is like the Cooper family, and stole the Thievius Raccoonus, which is like a book of like every single master thief skill set that like his entire family had passed down from generation to generation.
This got
So
really
I
dark.
I do not remember this game starting off this heavy. Holy crap.
yeah, yeah. So the whole time you're playing, you're basically it is kind of like a collectathon, but like it doesn't need to be. The whole time you're collecting these notes and bottles to unlock safes that have additional pages that like give you additional abilities. Each page you get gives you like an add-on ability, and some of them stack. So just different move sets that kind of help you throughout the game. They're not necessary to beat the game, um, but you're also taking down each member of this like I want to call them a guild. It was like a guild of like ringleaders. You're taking down like each leader as you progress through the game. And it being a game from 2002, each level has multiple levels, um, and they're all identical or not identical. They're all different, like differently themed worlds. Like that was kind of a trope that a lot of games from that time period did. So like the first one is like Paris, France, and the second one is like the desert. The third one is like the bayou. You know, it's all kind of like that. It's also going off of the older style games. There's a bunch of like mini games included, which I actually found kind of annoying because they were the most challenging part. And they're like mini games that really have like no reason for being there. Like there's a little like racetrack where you have to come in first to proceed. There's a rhythm button mashing like DDR section at one point that again you have to beat these mini games to proceed to like the next world, and each
Right.
world has at least one of those. So that was kind of annoying. uh that being said, I was also kind of taking advantage of cheat codes. I know that's probably frowned upon by some people, but I play
Cheater.
games to have fun. Yeah, I play
I
games to have
play
fun.
I play games to enjoy.
Exactly, exactly. So I had a cheat code that would give me like infinite hits because it is like a one hit kill system. Now that can be avoided by collecting coins, and you can get like an additional hit up to 3 hits, I believe. But that, like I said, that cheat code you have infinite hits. There was also a cheat code that would automatically gather up all those bottles that had the notes in them that you needed for the safes. So like I didn't have to scavenge around the entire map multiple times looking for like that one last bottle.
So when you got you said that the bottle gave you, or you got like the safe opens, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
And
like each
those are what give
level,
you the additional abilities.
yes, each
So
level
did you?
has go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if like that, if you got all of those abilities like at the jump since you used that cheat.
Yes, so that specific
Okay,
cheat code would literally just give me the bottles, like I wouldn't have to go around pick them up, and then I could just go to the safe and input the code that you got once you collected all those bottles.
gotcha.
Overall, I enjoyed it for like my first playthrough. I'd never like, I saw advertisements back in the day, and I was like, "Oh man, that game looks really fun." Um, it has a stealth element to it, but it's more or less, hey, you get detected, take out the thing that detected you, and you are no longer detected. So
I am remembering, tell me if I'm wrong. Were they did the enemies have view cones? Did they almost always have something designating their view cone in that game?
yeah, they would typically have like a a flashlight or a lantern or some sort that would cast like a cone of light.
Okay,
Um,
alright, yeah.
there were also like booby traps. There were like laser grids that would like move in a certain pattern, and you'd have to like jump in between them to
Mhm.
some degree. Uh, but yeah, that was it's a pretty small story compared to the games you guys are playing. But you end up the very last boss, the head honcho, is like this mechanical owl. He's called Clockwork, and
Whoa.
apparently he's had a grudge against your family for like hundreds of years. Because like the reason he's like robotic is because he is like preserved himself. So he's been like hunting down members of your family for like generations.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
This diabolical owl.
And he's like, I mean, he's compared to Sly, he's pretty big. Um,
Right.
so like the final like boss fight is like you circling around this arena with the help of what was her name? Carmilla the Fox,
Oh,
who
yeah,
is
you had a team
technically
with you.
well, yes and no. She is trying to capture Sly Cooper because like obviously he's a thief and she's like a police officer that upholds the law. So but they do end up working together at the very end, so
Right. I do remember, you had a couple partners. There was a turtle, if I remember correctly, and a hippo? Or a hippo?
yeah, yeah, so Sly
Hippo?
does have, like, a little, duo team behind him. I'm trying to think of their names now because it's escaping me. But yes, the turtle was, like, the brains of the operation. Like, he would, like, give you the codes and stuff, like, he would decipher all the messages and bottles that you collected, and he would give you the code to the safe. And Hippo was like the getaway driver, so to speak,
Right.
which didn't really play in. Well, he in the racing games he was like who you were controlling, but like like story wise, it was just kind of like he was there to escort you from point A to point B, which is like where you start playing as Sly. Then
Bentley and Murray.
yes, Murray was the hippo, correct?
Yep. Yep, yep.
Bentley was the turtle.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay. Like I said, they wrapped that game up like pretty well. There's a cliffhanger where like Clockwork might not be dead, so I don't know if that continues on into the trilogy. Um, I'll let you
Hmm.
guys know as soon as I know.
So you plan on continuing the series then?
Yes, yes. I don't know
Nice.
if it'll be the next game that I talk about
Right.
for the show, but I will keep you guys informed, like
Yeah.
separately. So be it.
Does it do you guys have any ideas of games that you'll do next? Don't reveal them yet if you do, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I
Um,
I've got
some
a couple in
I
mind.
have something that I can actually dump hours into this go around as opposed to dumping hours into setting up a podcast and then playing a game on the side.
right, yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I have a couple of games on my radar that I haven't really gotten the chance to fully go into. I think this will be a good opportunity for me to mainly go into like single player games. That's a lot of
Right.
what I don't do. And I think we need to address the elephant in the room that I'm speaking this into existence now. At some point, we are gonna have to do a Destiny episode.
That's fine. That's
It
fine.
is
Yeah, we do put a lot of
unavoidable.
hours into
If the
Destiny.
Yeah, hey, if the stars align or if we shove the stars into place and we all come to the show with the same game, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I'm kind of curious because you guys are both playing like newer games, and I'm like going backwards in time here. Like,
Mhm.
are you guys going to like continue playing newer games? Because
No.
I will probably be playing older games.
That's fine. It's wherever your interests go, man.
Yeah. I will probably stick more to some newer stuff just because there's stuff that has released in the last couple of years that I haven't even had the chance to try. Whereas some of a lot of the older games that I do want to play, it's because I have played them before. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a lot of them I've had the chance to sort of try out. And eventually I'll probably like maybe we could do like a retro episode or something. But
Right.
But yeah, a lot of my stuff will probably be pretty modern.
Whatever you want to talk about, man, people will listen. So, yeah. So,
But
all right, that's all you got, Cameron?
if I could add one thing onto to kit with Cameron's regarding like retro games and stuff, is I think it's really interesting how a lot of like the main mechanics of those games can be so simple, but at the same time be so enjoyable. That was just one thing I wanted to tack on at the end here. That's something that I feel like a lot of people with older retro style games, or just like platformers of that type in general, they a lot of times don't get like the credit for being so just so playable, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
There's always fun in simplicity. Like you don't have to have
Yeah,
these
yeah. Well
over
said.
complicated like game mechanics.
That's one of the reasons why I chose what I did, because I was spending a lot of time like, I mean, I'm setting up websites and shit like that. I'm reading about how different things, and when I get done doing that stuff, I wanted to go to a game that I didn't also have to work on while I was setting this whole project up. If that makes
Right, yeah.
yeah, no, in simplicity, especially with the jobs that we do. So you don't always want to come home to um, a number crunchy game necessarily, or something that you have to keep track of 1,000 different things. Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is just follow your interests, man. I mean, if next week Cameron wants to talk about Pong and Daulton,
Be
you
a
want
very
to talk
short
about
episode.
a game that came out like 5 minutes ago, go for it, dude. It's your interests. Follow
Yeah.
it.
Listeners, feel free to participate as well. If you guys want to use this as an excuse to just like jump into a game you've never seen before.
Which is a perfect segue to the next section, Daulton.
Hey.
Right now is where we would normally read emails. Obviously, it's the first episode, so we don't have any, which is a lie. We have one. It's me sending a test email to myself to make sure the system worked the way I wanted it to. It just says hi, so hello to me. I get to pick the next host for the next episode.
Ooh.
So typically, audience members, dear listener, the way this would work is, if I'm feeling overly assholish, I could just pick somebody and not give an explanation. Or you can, in this instance, I'm going to say Cameron wins the episode because he genuinely took me back to something from my childhood, and actually in talking about it and explaining it, opened up memories from that game that I completely forgot about. I had no idea that game started off that fucking dark.
Yeah,
Like,
that was a curveball right from the
because
jump.
I was like 6 when I played it, and I didn't understand like the full meaning of Adventure Time or something. But Daulton talked about something that I had no idea what the hell he was talking about, and I still don't. And while it was a roller coaster, I'm going to look into that. But just
Don't
Cameron
worry, I didn't get it either.
Cameron took me back in time and kind of opened up some memories, so I want him to have the honor of hosting the next episode. So
Hell yeah.
congratulations, Cameron.
Yeah, woo.
Yay.
All right.
You
All right.
can't hear me
So,
clapping because Crisp is on, but I'm clapping.
yay. I'll clap. Yay. I have crisp off. Yay.
There we go.
Yay.
So, that being said, since we didn't have any emails, if anybody that's listening would like to send an email to us asking anything within the scope of the show, ask us questions about games, ask us questions about us, tell us a game that you're playing, just be involved in the show. For all fuck it, send us an email just saying fuck you, and I will read it out on the air. Send your
Oh,
mail.
you shouldn't have said that. Oh God.
Send your mail to mail@doortodoorgaming.com. That's door, the number 2, doorgaming.com. Mail@doortodoorgaming.com, and we'll read them out. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Like, subscribe, listen. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Google Podcast, Amazon Music. There's a couple of other podcatchers that scrape info from various sites. So if you search our name, you might be able to find us on there. Also, we have a website. www.doortodoorgaming, that's the number 2, doortodoorgaming.com. On there you can find the list of episodes that we have or will have. You can find all the places that you can definitely listen to us. There's also going to be a section on there describing the hosts and what they do, if they do anything outside of the podcast. So until next time, that's all I have. I guess we'll see you in a month. Bye. And I would like to welcome my co-hosts, Cameron Minter. I guess we didn't go over that. You should probably say that. I knew I was
Oh
fucking forgetting something. No, you
no, yeah,
No,
I
just keep
I
rolling.
figured
Just go with it. That was too funny.